Everyone, and welcome to Full-on, your Fulham-centric football podcast. Today, I'm joined by two of my co-hosts. AJ, how you doing, buddy?
All good, all good. And yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. And Drew, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing well, my friend. I'm doing well.
We're obviously here to discuss Thursday night's game at home to Brighton. It's a bit of a difficult one. I think it'll be an interesting game. Brighton have had a really good start to the season. I think only Liverpool have lost less games than they have so far this season. They've had some really impressive victories against Tottenham and against both the Manchester clubs. They've had a couple of silly results against teams that you probably would expect them to beat, but they have been very, very good, and it's going to be a very, very tough task for us on Thursday night. Looking at the game, AJ, we've got a few suspensions. Obviously, Tom Kearney's out, Lukic is out, and we've still got a few players out injured. We're looking a bit thin in midfield. What are you expecting squad wise for the game?
What am I expecting? I'm expecting probably to see the return of Andreas Pereira. Probably not what I want to see. What I'd like to see is Iwobi pushed into midfield and then Adama to start on the right wing with Nelson on the left wing. That's what I'd personally prefer. But I think we're going to see the return of Andreas just because he's played more in the system this season. And with our shortages of midfield players, natural midfielders, you could argue, I think he's the likely candidate.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think one of the only other positions that we're looking at is we know that we're obviously still light in centre back position. With Anderson still going to be out, so it'll be Issa Diop and Calvin Bassey starting on Thursday night, which isn't something I'm mad at. I think Issa's been really good the last few games he's had to play for us, considering that he isn't getting first choice, but when he has come on, he's been really good. Drew, Brighton is always one of those games for us that we always somehow manage to get a win against Brighton since we've been in the Premier League. It's one of those funny ones for us, even when we seem to be quite bad and they seem to be on great runs. We always seem to pull out a result. I'm not really expecting the same this time because they have been outstanding so far this season. I think that their manager's really got them playing some good football. What are you expecting from Brighton come Thursday night?
Well, they're a good footballing side. I just hope they haven't got a cutting edge, but I'm not quite sure that's going to be the case this time. With Pedro up front and their wingers, and they look like they're going to have, unfortunately for us, Baliba back, or I don't know how Carlos Baliba, their Cameroonian central defensive midfielder, who's already drawing rave reviews and might be their next big export. Bearing in mind the issues that we've got in terms of availability, especially around the midfield and missing Anderson, and the fact that we're quite goal shy. I mean, I will. It's going to be tough. I mean, you've already covered it, Ash. They've never beaten us in the Premier League. I don't know how, because they seem to always used to really mug us off in the Championship. I think it's going to be tough. I think the next two games are going to be tough. And mind you, having said that, I was sitting here thinking we were going to get spanked by Spurs. But to be fair to Brighton, I think they're much more consistent, and I think they're a better team. Being brutally honest, so I think it's going to be very difficult for us. Very difficult.
Yeah, I think for this game, what I've noticed so far from the games I've seen Brighton play is they don't play one system. They play two or three different systems, and they play them extremely well. So they can change up the way they play depending on who they're playing against. It's why they've managed to get really good results against Man City, against Man United, and back to the game against Tottenham where they absolutely blew Tottenham away. It was down to them being able to change their system and the way they play, and they've had a few injuries over the last couple of weeks, and somehow still managed to pull out results. I know their last game they drew with Southampton, which wasn't a great result for them, but considering the fact that they've had a few issues, it's not so shocking that they would have that as a lull. I wouldn't be moaning if my team were in fourth place, 2 points off second, and that's considered a lull for them so far this season, and it would be because they have been that good. AJ, looking at us and going into this game because we want to concentrate on us, obviously. We're going to have to be very consistent in front of goal. We're really going to have to take our chances in this game because I don't see us having loads and loads that we normally would because of how compact Brighton can be and fast they can be on the counter attack. You know, what do we need in this game? Do we need to do broken record, just put balls in the goal, or do we need to, just be a bit more consistent with pushing forward?
We need to commit players into the box. I feel like I'm repeating myself quite a lot in that regards, but you won't score many goals if you don't commit the numbers into attacking positions. Yes, it can leave you vulnerable at times, but we're actively vulnerable anyway because of our own mistakes on most occasions. We're almost forced because of our suspensions and or injuries to play quite an attacking lineup. We could even potentially see more changes because of the back-to-back games within 4 days? Is it 4 or 5 days, something like that? That means that some fringe players might end up getting some usage. We might see Wilson, might see Adama, might see Muniz start, might even see Sessegnon. We just don't know. It's one of those. We've really got to commit players into the box, whether or not it's just one extra player making runs in behind whoever our striker is. We need to, when that ball gets delivered, to have a second option, someone that can chase down a loose ball, someone that will be there if it misses the first man, and not just make things easy for them to defend.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think for Thursday, for the first time this season, of me saying this, I think we need to almost be a little bit defensive minded, because Brighton are exceptionally good going forward, and they can score at will, and they proved it so far this season that they've done it. I've seen them win a couple of games this season where they've not been great, but they've taken their chances when they come, and that seems to be the complete opposite of us at the moment, where we have to have loads of chances before we score one, and I don't think it's that outrageous that the last couple of games, the goals we've scored have both been long distance shots and nothing's come from inside the box because there's never anybody in the box other than Rail trying to take those chances. And, we can't rely on that in order for us to be as good of a football team as we know we are. We've seen us play some really beautiful football. Our approach play has been absolutely fantastic. And, whichever like rotation of the players who are on the wing we seem to have they seem to be really, really doing really, really well. Reece Nelson's doing well out on the wing at the moment, but before Reece Nelson came in, it was Iwobi out on the wing. Iwobi was doing really well out on the wing. We just need to do better at actually creating more opportunities and trying to score from them. And it's been a bit of a concern of all of ours for ages, hasn't it, that we haven't been able to do that. Drew, going into this game, I'm not expecting masses of changes. Obviously, we know about the ones that we're going to have, and AJ's mentioned about the squad and where it is at the moment. What would you like to see on Thursday? Not necessarily you're going to be happy if Pereira comes back in. Would you like to see maybe Josh King come in instead and get some game time? What are
I-
you expecting?
What am I expecting? Nelson will start because he can't play on Sunday. I've got a sneaky feeling that he might play Muniz because expecting 32, 33-year-old Raul to do 3 games in 7 days, 8 days, I think it's a little bit too much. Berge picks himself because we've got no Lukic and we've got no Reed. Obviously, we've got no Kearney, so we have. It seems to me the other 2 positions in the midfield are going to come down to ESR, Pereira, and Iwobi. Personally, I'd be very happy if Pereira was left on the bench and we played either Wilson or Traore on the right-hand side. You look at the 2 games, Brighton have, I think, lost their last 3 at the Cottage. And in fact, of their last 4, they've only got a point. So you look at this game and the following game on Sunday, you'd think this is the one that would be slightly easier. So you'd be tempted possibly to go for broke on this one. But as you've already pointed out, Ash, they got some good players. I mean, they've won their last 3 away games. They're 4 points ahead of us. They've never achieved 23 points after 13 games in their history in the Premier League. At the back, again, we've got a shortage of options. We have, I think the back four picks itself, although he may think about bringing in Castagna because you're not going to lose much if you do that. But you're quite right. I think this might be a game where Sessegnon gets on the field at some point. But having said all of this and seeing Silva's comments in the press when he previewed the Brighton game today, I think he was laying the groundwork for a Pereira return, which will be interesting because I'm quite keen to see how the Craven Cottage faithful react to him. I do wonder if they're going to be on him straight away when the first errant pass goes to a Brighton player. That'll be interesting. But no, as for your point about King, it's well made, and especially on this podcast, we love our homegrown players. But I think it would be unreasonable to expect him to start from the off. But I wouldn't be surprised if he was on the bench, and I wouldn't personally be bothered if he was brought on for 20 minutes. Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. I think we're in a weird situation at the moment where our squad almost picks itself for two reasons. One, because of the suspensions, and two, because of the way everyone's performing. I like the shout for Castagna maybe coming in for this game because I imagine that Sunday's game against Arsenal might be slightly harder, and it'll be the game we want Kenny Tete to be in. It's weird saying that Arsenal's game will be harder considering the fact that Brighton are currently fourth in the table, 2 points off second. But as good as they have been, I would still consider the Arsenal game to be the harder out of the two. And if you're going to look, if you break the season down like everyone always does into where we're going to get points, and you were looking at these two games and go, we want 3 points out of these two games, the Brighton game would be the one that you would look at and go, that this is the one we can get points from. It's going to be an interesting one. And hopefully under the Cottage lights during the week, where we tend to play Brighton during the week at home, that we just managed to pull something out, because it is one of those things. We look at that Brighton squad, and we both said so far that they've got some interesting players. They've got some really good young players. They've also got Matt O'Reilly, who we are going to talk about.
We're going to start ranting about Scott Parker again, because I feel it coming on.
I promise you, I'm not going to say. I promise you, I'm not on this show going to say anything about Matt O'Reilly. If he puts more than 2 correct passes in place on Thursday night, the review will be interesting. But it is what it is. Looking at it, if he scores against us, yeah, Scott Parker will be laid into royally on the review. AJ, looking at that Brighton squad, we'll do what we always do when we do our match predictions, where we pick somebody out to look out for. But looking at that Brighton squad, looking at Matt O'Reilly, looking at Carl, looking at Lamptey, and who comes to mind to you as the player that we should really worry about in it?
Danny Welbeck.
Good call.
Genuinely, he seems to have had a resurgence of form under the new manager. He's a bright spark, is a bundle of talent, and a ridiculously hard worker. And it will take something like him chasing a loose ball that our centre-back should clean up with no drama, that he should have no business running to get, to cause a mistake that will end up in a sticky situation. So his work ethic and his performances recently really need to be something for us to be cautious of. Matt O'Reilly's an obvious one, because I will always call out the ex-Fulham player that's playing against us in very typical fashion, even if it's unlikely they'll play, like I did with the Ipswich fixture. But outside of that, I think man for man, we're pretty well matched. Obviously, Diop is performing brilliantly, so not much of a hindrance. Quite interestingly, Marco Silva in his press conference said that Diop is actually growing to be better as a player and is lacking a little bit of confidence in himself at the moment, which based on his performance against Spurs, you wouldn't believe. But it just shows how good of a backup player we've got in Diop. So credit to him.
Yeah, no, I agree, especially talking about Diop and that. I think that I said it in the review of the Tottenham game that, he's one of those players that before this season, every time he got on the ball, you always slightly like clenching your buttocks together because you might mess up in some way. But he has been outstanding this season. He started the season really well for Anderson came in, and the games just had to take place when when Bassi was out, and now Anderson's out. He's been outstanding, and you can't moan about it. And I am going to the game on Thursday, not worrying about the centre back positions with Diop coming in, whereas last season at this point, if it had happened and it was Bassi and Diop, I would be slightly concerned going into the game. Look, lads, let's finish just how we always finish our match previews. Let's look at. I know you've just said Danny Welbeck. Let's give a Brighton player to look out for, a Fulham player that you expect to perform in this game or you want to perform in this game, and then a match prediction. Drew, we'll start with you, mate, because I know you've got you always like to big up a player in this one.
Sorry, Ash, who do you want me to pick out first? A Fulham player or a Brighton player?
Anyway, any order, mate. Just one from each team and the score.
Carlos Baliba, I've already mentioned him. Their Cameroonian central defensive midfielder. I think he's going to turn a few heads. I would be very tempted to attack Brighton down the wings and try and stay away from the centre where he lives, especially at Lamptey, because Lamptey's not going to last 90 minutes. Karen Matoma has scored in his last 3 games, so we have to be mindful of him. But I think, Welbeck's a very good shout because he's so knowledgeable. But I'm really looking forward to seeing Baliba because I think he might be the next big thing for us. I don't know. I'm like I said, I'd like to see Muniz given a shot. I'd like to see Traore. I think our biggest success might come from the wings, and it may be one of those games where Harry Wilson gets to shine because he deserves a shot. And going on to AJ's point where we've got to commit people forward, we don't really have anyone, as we've discussed before, that is good at following in or getting beyond his centre forward like Wilson does. We've talked about Cess used to do it when he was playing, but obviously he's not in the team now. But yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm going to say Harry Wilson for us and Baliba for them. You watch Harry Wilson won't play, and Baliba will probably break his leg. So
Have you got a scoreline prediction?
I think it's going to be tight. I think it'll be 1-1.
Shout. AJ, what about you, mate?
I'm going to stick with Danny Welbeck, but Mitoma's a good shout. I forgot he existed for a little while there, but he is an excellent footballer with a bunch of technical ability and a very dangerous player at that. So I'm sticking with Welbeck, though. Fulham player to watch out for if he starts, for better or worse. The player to watch out for will be Andreas Pereira. He could have an absolute worldie, which would be great for him and great for us in terms of a step in the right direction to forgiving all of this nonsense. If you don't know what we're talking about, please go back and watch our video from a couple of days ago where we addressed it. If he has a howler and gets hooked at halftime or at the 60-minute mark for King or pushing a Iwobi into midfield and bringing on another player, then it'll be even more drama into the story that is Andreas Pereira at Fulham, however short-lived that may end up being from now. If he doesn't start and Wilson starts, Wilson, I agree with Drew, will be a very dangerous and key player for us. Score prediction as well. Oof. I'm going to go out on a limb and say 2-0 Fulham.
Okay, that's positive. And I'll take it.
More positive news, Ash. Brentford have just gone 3-0 down. So,
Are they at home
Tremendous
tonight?
stuff.
Yeah, well, that is ace. I think for me, Brighton-wise, you both mentioned Danny Welbeck and Matoma, two players that I admire massively. Danny Welbeck's always impressed me. I've always liked Danny Welbeck. He had a bit of a lull at the end of last season, but he has been really good so far this season. I've watched an awful lot of Brighton's games this season, and I've been very impressed with what I've seen of them. For me, just naturally, Matt O'Reilly's the player to watch. It's his first game back at the Cottage. He naturally will want to perform to because of that, and he will, and we will be on here on Friday morning or sorry, Saturday morning when we release the review of that game.
Ash,
Absolutely
one thing
going
about
to
Matt
Scott Parker.
O'Reilly that I kind of regret now that Kearney's not able to play, because it would have been good to see them both on the field at the same time, because as you know, I've always bigged up O'Reilly as being a natural replacement for Kearney. I swear though, if he has a great game, and he probably will, I am not going to be responsible for what I say about Scott Parker in the review.
Me too. I think the swear button will be coming out for the review. That'll be for sure. But for us anyway, I've been last couple of games. I've said Iwobi is going to be really important in games, and he has been. I genuinely can't keep saying that Anthony Robinson's going to be important in games, because he always is. And when he produces and he has that, and he has those games where he can actually put a ball in the box, we do really well. For me, the person to watch out for is going to be whoever starts in the striking position, whether that is Muniz or if it is Raul Jimenez. It's going to be whoever starts in that position is going to have to put some chances away in this game. We're not going to be able to just mess around and miss 30 chances that we have been able to do in other games this season, because we won't get that many opportunities against Brighton, because they are that good, especially in the centre of midfield, to get the ball through the park and to do that. So whoever starts in that centre forward position is going to be really key for us tomorrow. So whether that's Muniz or Rail, that's my person to watch out for us, because they're going to be key. Scoreline, I'm not quite as positive as AJ is, but I've got a sneaking suspicion we can get a draw out of the game. But I think it'll be maybe one of those games where it's like 2-2, 3-3. I don't see it being 1-1, because I don't see us keeping Brighton quiet in front of goal for that long. And I've seen them scoring a few. So if we're going to get anything out of this game, we're probably going to have to score a couple of ourselves. But we'll go from there, really, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully, when we come to review the game, we won't be sitting here mugging off Scott Parker, and we'll be happy with the result that we get. But we'll see what happens.
We'll always be sitting here mugging off Scott Parker. It's just whether or not we'll do it with a smile on our face or not.
I never mention Scott Parker and have a smile on my face. Let's be honest. But we'll see how it goes. Everyone going to the game, obviously, tonight. I hope it's a good one. Hope it's not too cold. Hope it is. I won't be there, unfortunately, tonight for family reasons. But, hopefully the game will go well. Drews, you're going to be at the game. Hope you have a good one. Hope you enjoy it. We'll be back to review the game we'll be reviewing it on Friday, so it'll be out on Saturday morning, along with a preview for the Arsenal game that is on Sunday. Everyone going to the game, so enjoy it. We'll see you guys soon. Please like and subscribe to the channel and share it with your Fulham mates. We have been slowly growing over the last couple of weeks, and it'd be nice if we can keep that going. So thanks everyone for that. Other than that, come on, you Whites.
Come on, you Whites.